Hello, everybody. This is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. I have a fantastic show lined up for you today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're all keeping well, trying to stay positive while we get through these strange times. Let me take you away from all the madness out in the world. You are here to listen to metal being talked about and played. So, the first band, I'm going to give you a small introduction to them. They're called Wolf Acid Ritual. So they're a project and a collection of ideas born out of boredom and frustration and a love of all things sludgy, stoner, doom and metal. So the essence of these ideas from Wolf Acid Ritual can be found loitering somewhere around the Kilkenny area. It was here that Wolf Acid Ritual was born at the end of 2019. The elements of drums, bass, guitar and vocals came together under the vision and guidance of one. So Wolf Acid Ritual says they walk a path not unlike one spoken of a young gun known as Dirty Steve. Would you believe? He is quoted as saying, "We're in a spirit world, asshole. They can't even see us." So open your eyes, take a look around, scratch the surface and question everything. Wolf Acid Ritual writes, designs, records and mixes all their own content. Their debut EP, Beyond the Red Sky, is going to be released later this year, I've been informed. But for now, you can listen to their first single. It's called The Hidden Secrets. Hope you enjoy it.
Woman spirals through human minds. Geometric lines collide. Business symbols, Nazca lines. Sacred numbers, pyramids, ancient college clues and lies. You decide what you can't deny. Something's hidden in plain sight. A prison, then a vision. Actualize. Gets up to press. Anything to the sky. All reasons and realms. Mechanisms compel. Suits of fictions. Lies, hypocrisy. Yeah. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and a frequency. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and it's freaking me out. That's why I hit up secrets, take a geometry and it's making me bleed. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and a frequency. Sacred numbers, pyramids, ancient college clues and lies. You decide what you can't deny. Something's hidden in plain sight. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and a frequency. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and it's freaking me out. That's why I hit up secrets, take a geometry and it's making me bleed. That's why I hit up secrets under the sequence and a frequency. Sacred numbers, pyramids, ancient college clues and lies. You decide what you can't deny. Something's hidden in plain sight.
Bringing you the best of new metal out there, and that certainly hit a spot with me anyway. Headbanging furiously along to it, and it came in at 2 minutes and 14 seconds. These lads, it's hard to believe that they're releasing only their debut EP later on this year. I reckon they've certainly sharpened their playing chops with other bands, because that is the sound of a mature class band, and as you all know, I love my riffs and they certainly packed them in that short period of time. So if you want to get in contact with Wolf Acid Ritual, drop them in email to wolfacidritual@gmail.com. They're on all the social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And thanks again, lads, for submitting that track. I hope I've won some new fans for you by playing it on the show. Next up are a band that are no strangers to these shores. It is the magnificent King Witch. King Witch, of course, featured on the Metal Cell podcast in August last year when they played an absolute stormer of a set at Condoyle's Monolith Festival in Cypress Avenue, Cork. And of course, they did play Fred Zeppelin's, Dolan's a few times, one of them being The Siege, and up in Belfast as well. So it's fair to say at this stage, lads, we have the Irish passport stamped and ready for you if you decide to move from Edinburgh. Only a few weeks ago, I was talking to Chris, Luke, Keith and Barry of Dog Tired, and they were telling me as well that Jamie and Laura both worked on their album, Jamie producing it and Laura doing the artwork. So if you don't know too much about King Witch, they were formed in 2015, as they say, in a dark cavern underneath the streets of old Edinburgh. And it's a lead-heavy brew of old-school metal and the meatiest of 70s classic rock. So figure that one out. But they draw comparisons ranging from Black Sabbath, Candlemass, Macedon and High on Fire. The band are absolutely brilliant live, as I can attest to. They have 2 releases behind them so far. One is an EP called Shoulder of Giants, and the other one is Under the Mountain, which was released in 2018 on the French label Listenable Records. Both of those releases are fantastic. And the best part is, on Friday the 24th of April, we'll see the release of King Witch's highly anticipated second album, Body of Light, which further focuses their ability to fuse dense riffage with haunting yet powerful vocal lines and melodies. Body of Light's wider dynamic range takes the listener on an electrifying journey from dark, brooding passages through to full tilt heavy metal glory. I must say, I'm really looking forward to this release, and I have an exclusive for you, courtesy of Jamie and Laura, Rory and Lyle. They have given me the title track, and you are just about to hear Body of Light. Enjoy. about that, everybody? That was the fantastic King Witch with Body of Light. Jamie, that guitar tone is really, really fucking cool, and a beautiful solo as well, right in the middle of it. The track itself just brings me to a different almost reality. As fantastic a band can do that with a song. Laura's voice, as usual, top class, nails it. And there was a really cool change in the middle of it as well, allowing the rhythm section to absolutely kill it. Again, just to remind everybody, the album is out on April the 24th, which is Friday, the day this podcast is released. So you'll be able to check out all the links in relation to the band. I hope it's a massive success for you lads, and thanks again for submitting the track to the Metal Cell podcast. Now, on to the main interview. Yes, it is. It's Evan Prendergast of Worn Out and Dave Moore of Today FM's Dermot and Dave. I hope you enjoy it. And we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Richie from the Metal Cell podcast. I am delighted to welcome Evan Prendergast of Worn Out and Dave Moore of, I suppose,
the Worn Out fan club.
Of the Worn Out fan club, and Dermot and Dave, Today FM fame. You're always going to be branded as that, I suppose, Dave, anyway. But how bad?
Fair enough. It's nearly been 20 years, so I suppose I should kind of accept it at this point.
Are you serious?
It's been 20 years.
This is our 18th year. Yeah, we were put together in 2002.
Put together like a boy band.
Like a boy band.
It was
Louis Walsh
worse.
saw the two of you being like, this is going to work. They should be friends for life.
It was like a grown-up's play date. So somebody, God bless her heart, her name was Karen. She was tasked with the job of finding new radio talent.
Okay.
She found me on a voiceover CD. There ensued some weird meetings. But anyway, long story short is I was put into a room and she went, that's Dermot. Dermot, that's Dave. And she kind of, as she shut the door, went, you guys get on. And then I'll be back in 20 minutes. And that's literally what happened. And she came back and said,
the longest 20 minutes of your life. You haven't seen her since.
She came back and she said, are you friends? And we looked at each other and went, yeah, actually, yeah, I think we are best mates after 20 minutes. Like, hilarious.
I kind of did something similar, Dave, in relation to Evan, Danielle, and Jack.
You actually did, to be fair.
Yeah, 3 different personalities, but I had Danielle on the show, and Danielle just blew me away with her knowledge, and she's just so great, and great outlook, great perspective, and a metal fan. And I was thinking, Jesus, Danielle is, wow, I need someone else. And then I thought straight away, Evan, a no-brainer there straight away. He'll talk for Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, will.
And but they had never properly met before. Would that be correct, Ev?
Yeah, no, I actually hadn't met Danielle at all. The first time I met her was when she collected me in the car. And,
Jesus, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was sitting there and like there was this extra pressure of being like, right, we have to get along, because if we don't, like, this is going to be a shit podcast. So by the time we got there, like, we got out, and you know, at the start it was like, oh yeah, I might have met you from here, I might have done that, to like just two of us absolutely blabbering on that. When we got to doing the podcast, we both looked at each other and we're like, fuck, what happens if we've run out of things to say now? Like, we just had to repeat. I wish you just put a mic in the car that day. That would have been so good.
And then Jack, who was the third member of the forums, Dave. And again, it was a case of, we need somebody really intelligent, really smart, really relaxed, chilled out, but knows he's metal. And Jack has all those qualities. And again, Jack is another brilliant component, really, isn't he?
It's a damn fine team, yeah.
It's a great team, yeah. And well,
I'm happy with it anyway.
And is that not true, Ev, that when I texted you, when I texted Jack to say, would you be interested in the forum, for some reason he was with you in some bar or something?
No, what happened was, this was months ago now, but I was like, had messaged. See, this is why I think it was supposed to happen, because I was sitting here, Sun just came out. It was months ago now, so it was like when we saw Sun again, it was like, I have to do something. And I literally just thought, like, God, I'd love a Beamish. And I happened to be messaging Jack about some Carosa thing. And it just came into my head being like, I'd love a pint of Beamish. And then Jack said, we should go for a pint someday. And I was like, right, how about right now? So I was like, I've already thought about it. Walk down. You had messaged me about you didn't actually tell me what was going on, to be honest. I only found out from Jack what was going on. He came in the door and we both just kind of looked up after getting added to the group. And as he walked in, we both read it and we're like, okay, cool. We're doing a podcast. So I was like, yeah, grand.
Yeah.
So all of it just worked well together.
Mm. Of course, I had the
think.
benefit, Dave, of meeting them all before that through numerous gigs and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you have to know vaguely who you're putting together.
Yeah.
Unlike myself and Dermot.
Yes.
Yeah. And you get to talk to a lot more people as well. So fair play to what was her name?
Karen.
Karen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
Are you
Karen.
still in touch with Karen?
No, Karen kind of disappeared pretty quickly.
She closed the door and never came back.
she was one of those people who she found talent and then she disappeared into the night.
Okay.
Yeah, and we started on air like a month later or even less. I think it was crazy. But yeah, and it was like you're talking about, you know, I hope this podcast goes well. Like we started on the breakfast show on 98 FM in Dublin, which is like it was the biggest radio station in Dublin. It was the biggest breakfast show in Dublin.
What year was that, Dave?
2002.
Okay.
And yeah, it was an insane stage to be thrust on. Like I had never been in a radio station. Like,
at all.
It wasn't like I was like, you know, spent years trying to get there. Like I was doing other things. And
you were pretty much just like a record producer then, weren't you?
Yeah,
music was kind of what you were doing then.
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished school and went to Trinity to do business studies in Russian, which is obviously what every musician wants to do.
Well, you helped the lads in Baylor. I know that. Like that was that's when I found out you spoke Russian. Is when like Chris was sending you things to.
No way.
Translate.
Yeah. When the lads did the tour in Russia, they were sending stuff to Dave, being like, "What does this mean?" I think there was something like, "But just get out of there." That means they want to hurt you.
I may have exaggerated a bit.
How would you have known Baylor though? Dave?
Oh, just through like social media, like
okay.
Same way I got to know Evan and kind of everyone else that I know through in the metal scene these days. Because I'm long out of it. I sent you guys a video earlier on of me when I was 16 playing at Grattan pub in Capel Street. Look, I've been music all my life. I've been metal all my life. Picked up a guitar when I was 12, and just immediately the first thing I did was go to my friend's house who he had a guitar that he'd plugged into his dad's stereo that he found a way to wire it to make noise. And the first thing we did at 12 was record a version of For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Cool.
Now,
how did you get, we'll say, into metal? Like, how did you hear it even at 12?
Limerick is to blame.
Oh, okay.
So my cousins, both my parents are from Limerick, and my mum is from a place out on the Ennis Road called Kilcornan. It's near Curragh Chase. I don't know if you've ever heard of that park there. But so anyway,
no.
Kilcornan I've heard of.
I'm not even going to pretend I did.
Yeah. So it's Askeaton, Kildimo, Kilcornan. Yeah. They're all around the same area. So anyway, we used to spend all my summers down there, and so my aunt lived across the road from my nana granddad's, which is where we go. But my aunt had sons that were the same age as me and older. Okay. So I hung out with the one that was the same age as me, Stephen, but then Emmett, Rory, and Trevor were all kind of 2 years older. So obviously Stephen and I both looked up to them so much. And we sat down one day and they went, "Hey, have you ever heard of Metallica?" I was like, "No." I was 11 or at the time or whatever. And they were like, "Well, listen to this." And they put on Kill 'Em All.
Oh, good Lord.
In the sitting room.
On vinyl. Impressive.
On vinyl.
Yeah, cool.
And look, I had liked music and I had sung in the school choir and played piano, done lessons, whatever. And that was it. And I loved music or whatever, but I wasn't virtuoso at anything. No one had said, "Oh, you're the best singer in the world." Or no one had said, "Oh my God, your piano grades are amazing." I was just like some kid, same as everyone else. But I heard this and I just didn't know what it was, but I knew I really liked it. So then they did what we did back in 1986 and 87, which is we made a tape from the record. So I had
Absolutely.
Kill 'Em All on one
Bootlegged
side,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and on the other side I had a band called Raven.
Oh yeah, Raven.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the album now, to be honest,
No.
but it was Raven on the other side. And I went back to Dublin, and I had this tape, and I finished national school, and I just listened to it over and over again all through the summer. Started in secondary school, and I met this other guy, Donica, and I was like, "Oh, did you ever hear like Metallica?" And he's like, "Yeah, I love Metallica." I was like, "What? You love Metallica? I love Metallica. Did you ever hear of Raven?" He's like, "Oh no." I was like, "Do you ever hear of Anthrax?" No. So
That was
we
it
just
then.
started kind of
Class.
educating each other, and then he's the guy whose house I went to when, like, it was literally, God, it was 3 months. Yeah, so I got a guitar for Christmas. So we were in Christmas '87, and we went over, and like, think about it, like 87, like Justice wasn't even out.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
so we were covering For Whom the Bell Tolls. It was a new Metallica song. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's how old I am.
That is crazy to think for me, even like as in
Yeah.
or and like Kill 'Em All just coming out. Like I wasn't born then.
No, well, sure. What age are you?
I'll be 30
Come on.
Sorry.
next month. Next month. Yeah.
So hang on. So
Oh
what
my-
year? That means you were born in 1990. 1990.
No, 90.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't,
So
what? You
Kill 'Em
couldn't
All
be
was
born in
83.
1990.
Yeah, yeah. No, 1990. Yeah, that's how it works.
Fuck.
That's
Kill
how
'Em All
time
was
works. Like
83. Puppets was Horizon
86.
Lightning was 84. Puppets was 86,
86,
and
yeah.
Justice was 88.
88, yeah.
So I
That's
mean,
so
I didn't
bizarre.
even exist.
you didn't
That's
exist
bizarre.
when
didn't
I
exist.
was being, you know, formed and shaped in my metal ways.
And I
But
was
yeah, so
created in your
basically-
honor.
You were. So Donica and I, obviously firm friends, but we also played everything together. So he was an amazing guitar player. He was always like a year ahead of me in terms of experience and about 10 years ahead of me in terms of ability. Just brilliant. But what that meant was I had somebody to learn from.
Mhm.
And then I was just one of those kids where I was dedicated. So I would sit in my room with my terrible Tasco Jazzmaster, and I would practice and practice and practice. And if For Whom the Bell Tolls didn't sound right, I would play it until it sounded right.
Yeah.
And I was so enthusiastic, you know. Not that, again, I was always the rhythm guitarist, and I was always fine with that. I never had aspirations to be the lead player, but I just wanted to be as good as I could be, you know, in that style of guitar, and James's right hand. And then you start listening to, as I said, Anthrax and Slayer and
Yeah.
Testament, and you start realizing there's so much out there. So then the video I sent you guys would have been, what, 91? So Evan would have been just born, and I was gigging in the
1-year-old,
Grattan,
the
one year
Prime of my life. Prime of my life.
Dave,
But yeah, we were-
Dave, where's the Grattan? I lived in Dublin for 9 years. Is that somewhere down towards
Capel Street.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slattery's was down there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, down that direction.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we would have done a couple of gigs in like in youth clubs and things. We did one in Tirlear and Clontarf. We did another one at Battle of the Bands in Rathgar, somewhere in a church, I think. And then this was our first kind of pub gig. We were like, I was 16. Everyone was 16 except the drummer, who was 14.
Jesus.
And
Okay.
14.
He was unbelievable. 14, yeah. We had to lie and tell everyone that he was 16 or something to get him even into the pub to play the gig.
But that's happened so many times. I
yeah,
think bands
totally.
still, God Alone did
Oh.
that up until
Yeah,
what, like
God alone. Yeah,
a
exactly.
year ago, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a
Dave,
band,
you're not
yeah.
doing justice as well to the fact that you had this long blonde. It looked blonde to me.
It was
or
blonde.
Oh,
fair.
it was.
Was it blonde?
It was. He
Yeah.
had Jennifer Aniston hair, is what he had. It
I
was
did,
Jennifer
yeah.
Aniston. Yeah.
Because
oh,
do you know why, Ev? Because
Why?
again, in 1991 in Belvedere, where I was in school inside in Dublin City, they went, you can have your hair to your collar. And that meant, like, at the
that was
back,
his fire.
like, you could have it here. And people grew it at the back. And I was like, I'm not growing at the back. I'm growing everywhere. And I had a bob. Like, basically had a blonde bob.
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston. But I tell you, I grew my hair. Yeah, I had long hair until 1994 or 5 maybe. And like, it was like middle of my back, blonde. Like, I remember a friend of mine, Dave Vickers is his name, another great rock guitar player, and he saw me outside McDonald's on O'Connell Street on a Saturday morning. We were doing a school musical or whatever, and he saw me and he hopped on me and like dragged me to the
Yeah.
ground, as you do when you're 16 or 17. And I screamed like a girl because it was a girl that he had hopped on outside McDonald's and not me. I was nowhere near the place.
Thinking it was
Rest-
you.
He wrestled this
Oh my
poor
God.
unfortunate girl in a black
Oh
leather
my
jacket
God.
to the ground.
Do you remember Skid Row back in the day? Yeah,
Oh,
not
I
the
do,
Tin
yeah,
Lizzy
Sebastian.
version now. Yeah, Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian Bach.
Have you heard of them, Ev?
Austin Bach's an absolute gobshite.
Exactly. Yeah,
Go on.
But back
I know
in the
exactly
day,
who they are.
yeah. Back in the day, I'll never ever forget it. We were in Eason's news agents in Cork, and one of the buddies was with me, and I just threw this magazine over to him, going, "What do you think of her?" And he goes, "Oh, she's a ride. Look at that. Look at that." Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, well, when I was in first year in college, then doing my business studies in Russian, went into there's a massive lecture hall in Trinity. I mean, like 500-600 people. It's huge, like, and I'm very good student and everything, so I sat right up the front. So I could hear the lecturer now as clearly as possible and take all my notes on my first day in business lectures in Trinity.
Best boy, like.
Yes, best boy. Go home and tell my mammy now how good I was in
Best boy David.
Best boy David. So I sat up there, and if you know the way college desks are, you have like on the right hand side you have a flip down kind of L-shaped desk where you can put your pad down, whatever, when you sit in. So then I would have flipped my long hair over to the left so that I could see what I was writing on the right. And I spent the whole time flipping my hair over and flipping my hair over. And I learned about 2 days later that one of my now best mates, Richie, who I've been friends with for 20 years, was sitting up the back, and he was paying no attention to the lecture whatsoever. All he was doing was rating the females in the room. So he would say, like, "Oh, your one with the black hair sitting 2 seats over from me, she's a 6 out of 10. Your one with the orange hair down there, yeah, she's a 7. He goes, "But no one compares to the blonde in the front."
And he keeps showing it off. Like
he called her Flicky. He's like,
Flicky, yeah.
Flicky in the front. She's a 10, and then
and she wants everyone to know because she's at it the whole time as well. Like she's
flicking,
like,
yeah.
this whole thing.
God.
The lecture ends, and at the time I was a pretty serious athlete, so I was fairly well built at the time. So at the time, like, the lecture ends, and this 6'1", like, muscle bound blonde lad turns around and goes, "All right, where are we going for lunch?" And your man's like, "No, Flicky's a guy. Flicky's a guy."
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you went then, after you did your business, you went to New Park Music Centre.
That's right, New Park Music Centre. Yeah, because do you know what? Like, that was a jazz course, and look, I love jazz, and
You're a jazzy guy, Dave.
I'm
are
a
a jazzy
kind
guy.
of dude.
Yeah,
but I'm certainly not. I don't have jazz talents, and I knew that. But what I wanted to do was I was such a good boy, and I was so ensconced in my studies from doing my finals in Trinity that I think I said to myself, "Look, my parents always agreed, if you get your degree under your belt, we'll support you in your music.
you can drink as much as you want then."
Exactly. But I suppose I kind of had to be realistic and go, well, if I just drop this kind of whole study thing that I'm in, and I've turned down a job in Moscow, and it's a lot of money, and I've turned a career, I paused that, like, I need to make sure this works. And I was like, but if I just start sitting in my bedroom in my parents' house writing music and hoping that somebody, I was like, that's not going to work. Like, so I kind of figured maybe if I study music, but not music, like go to, do a degree in music. I was never going to be that kind of guy, but study some kind of music for a year that allows me to have free time to write and produce and learn the ropes and do all that stuff. But at the same time, I'm in the kind of academic scenario, and New Park was perfect. I mean, the Guilfoyle brothers out there who taught me, like, they are some of the best jazz musicians the country's ever seen, and it was just such an honor to study with them, even if the music we were doing, jazz standards, and like, it wasn't, there was no metal, and at the time all I wanted to do was play metal for fun, but I wanted to write and produce pop. So there was none of that either. So there was nothing musically really in it for me, except for the fact that it was such a broad education in music and musicianship and seeing how chords work. I remember one of the most freeing things that's ever happened to me in my whole life in any realm was one of the guys played a note on a guitar, and he said, "Okay, that's like E. what chords, you know, can you pick a note in the scale and tell me a chord that will work with E, and you're like, well, E will work, yeah. A, because it's like a fifth. You're like, yeah, that'll work, yeah, whatever. And then, you know, we kind of ground to a halt and went, oh, maybe like if it was a minor, what would it be? And he went, you can start a chord with any note in the 12 notes in our scale, and E will be in key. And we're like, what? And he's like, well, think about it. Like, everyone's like, well, you can't start it with like E flat. Like, it's not going to be. He's like, it is. It's just like a flat 2.
Perception, like.
Yeah, or a flat 9. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Now, obviously, they're jazzy chords, but it was that thing of like, music is just this world of opportunity, and we all sit with, you know, G, C, and D, and whatever, and that's fine. If it's metal, it's like, you know, drop A and B flat, whatever.
Diminished.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the point, that like that there's musicality in any kind of form, and any attitude you take to whether it's jazz or metal or pop or whatever. That, like, you know, you're still dealing with this kind of same window of opportunity. And I mean, I brought loads of metal stuff into the music I produced, pop wise, and.
But why did you want to go produce and write pop, Dave?
Because I've always loved pop, and
you have to be fair. Like, he's a boy band fanatic. Like, he's a boy
like
band
Richie,
fanatic.
I'm passionate. I love music, but I'm passionate about 2 types of music, and they are like late 90s, early 2000s boy bands and thrash metal. Like they're
that couldn't have put Dave in more of like, that's him. Do you know, that is Dave. Like,
everything else is great. I love jazz. I love, you know, Coldplay. I love, you know, Sinead O'Connor. But I don't love those things. I love NSYNC and I love Slipknot. Like,
yeah, he does. He really does.
That's what gets me excited. But pop. Look, I'll be honest with you, Richie. The other thing is success. Like, you know, pop is. At the time, you got to remember the Backstreet Boys were absolutely enormous. Boyzone were enormous. In fact, sorry, I'll go back. The Backstreet Boys were only getting big in Europe, but Boyzone were enormous. Take That were huge. Like, these were there were bands coming out of the UK and Ireland that were being picked up all the time, and I wanted a piece of that. You know, I wanted to write for those kinds of acts. Now, I never got to the stage where I wrote stuff for albums for those bands. So what I would do is I'd be the guy who'd write stuff at a demo level that would get these bands signed, and then they'd go to the UK and they'd work with Wayne Hector and all these guys who were like, absolutely massive dudes or whatever. But that was where my head was at. Was that like I just love the studio. And I did metal when I was for myself when I was at home. And I mean, like, I wrote and recorded loads of stuff, and I recorded loads of metal bands. But what I tried to do as a career was be a pop writer and producer.
Okay.
But you can travel the two between each other very easily. I don't think I think a lot of the time, I think especially with metal, I think it's either with some people that listen to it, they have a very good grasp of everything else. You know, it's like more, I feel like more than a lot of people that they will respect it, or they just don't want to hear anything that's not. It seems to be one or the other. Like, you'll get like a lot of hip hop, and a lot of guys that like metal love hip hop as well. Like, you know, there's that. And now I think the way music is going, what is actually considered pop is so misconstrued, because there's just so many different elements from different types of music that are starting to come in. Like, trap is almost pop, or like, because at the end of the day, pop is just what's popular.
Whatever's popular.
Whatever is popular. Exactly. Yeah. So it does kind of, it comes into itself. Like, you can bring any type of music into itself.
In 2001, I recorded with a very, very poppy pop band. It was 4 guys and a girl. Couldn't have been more, you know, prescriptive pop. But they had half written a song. It was kind of okay. It was called Under Pressure and thing. And the more I listened to it, I went, you know what, this needs like metal guitars. And I was like, no, maybe I'm wrong, whatever. So then one night I just did it. I didn't tell them they'd already sung their vocals. I was just producing the track. You know, it was fine.
In your own time, like.
Yeah, exactly. So they
Yeah,
needed
yeah,
it. They needed it for a month down the line or whatever for a showcase, and they were like, "Look, just here. We came in. They recorded to like a kind of really basic backing track, and then that was the way I did most stuff. Was then I would go to town on the production after that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But I sat there, took out my Kerry King Hamer guitar, and it was just the little riff was like ding ding, ding ding. Diddle, diddle, diddle. And I was kind of like, hang on, like
Downstrokes.
instead of being a little, you know, a little pop bass ding ding, I was like, really
Were they horrified?
works. Well, they were horrified at the idea because I told their manager, I said, look, I've got the track produced the way you wanted it, but I've done something else. It's got metal production values. And I mean, I was like full dive bombing on a whammy. Like it was only, and I stole. I would have, of course, declared it and paid royalties, but I stole a kick and snare from Limp Bizkit for the middle eight, just because it needed it. And they happened to be in my mind. It was like, oh yeah, there's a kick and a free kick and a snare with nothing else on it in this particular track. I grabbed it, whatever. But I had that in it, and it really, don't forget, like 2001, nu metal was
that
everything.
was the thing.
So
that was huge. Yeah.
And they had a rapper in the band, so you know, so you're kind of thinking like, you know, it's like, you know, what it was like when Five did Everybody.
What a band! What a band! Invincible is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. But they used "We Will Rock You." Now, look, what I did was infinitely heavier than that, but it wasn't a million miles away in terms of concept from taking a rock metal tune and then singing it with pop sensibilities and pop production sensibilities, producing it that way. So it worked out really well. It's one of the best songs I've ever recorded, I think. And it was that kind of stuff. I just always pushed, you know, whatever I was feeling. Like, I suppose from metal as well and jazz, I love different time signatures. Absolutely cannot get enough. And one of my aims when I was still presuming that this was my career rather than radio was to write a pop song in 7/8. And I did. And I've played it to, in fact, it was considered by Samantha Mumba when she was at the height of her fame for her second album. But in the end, they just didn't, they went with a different song for that particular place in the record. But it got to the point where she recorded it. It was in 7/8. Like, no one even noticed. Like, until the only time they
also
noticed.
The thing about 7/8 though, 7/8 is that, like, it is that time signature that you can groove. Like, a lot of people, when you're like, if you're going for something more jarring, like with say like 5/4, I feel like 5 is very like, okay, this is odd. But if you're doing something like 7/8, like one of my favorite riffs in 7 is Outshined.
Oh yeah.
Out like
Soundgarden, is it?
Yeah, Soundgarden. Like, and it's just that that's
just jumps back in one early.
That's it. And but there's no like, there's not that push and pull that you're expecting to do. So something in 7/8 is completely doable for a pop song. I'm surprised. I'm sure there's a lot more now songs that are in more odd time. Like, isn't it in Germany? As a lot of their like more mainstream popular music is actually in odd time signatures, so they have become so much more acoustic. Yeah, a lot of 6, like where we would just be straight 4, like clap on. Do you know?
Absolutely,
like,
But I think kind of with the advent of nu metal anyway, it kind of cross-pollinated into the pop world and certainly the rap. And certainly the rap,
of course, production-wise as well.
You know?
I mean, like, you go back to...
So you weren't too far...
I wasn't, no. I mean, Korn
behind,
and Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park were as big then, you know, as any band was. And
did you embrace them?
Probably some of the biggest.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, absolutely loved them.
I loved them as well.
I love that idea that you could take hip hop and the bits of hip hop that I really liked. Now, the guys were never as good in terms of being MCs as the guys listen to who were rappers, but they would take the elements of that stuff that was great and put it into a really well defined and a really identifiable metal sound. And I think I really enjoyed those types of things, that it wasn't a sludgy mix of the two. It was like,
it was very polished, like
very polished. Yeah, I mean, the
yeah.
Dust Brothers production on the Linkin Park stuff was just.
Oh, it's amazing. You know
on
that
another
the
level.
Hybrid Theory album was the first CD I owned. Everything else was cassette, and I had to like.
Had to have that on CD.
I think that was the first one that came out that I was like, oh, can I get the cassette version of this? And they were like, it's not on cassette. And I remember going home being so upset, being like, well, what's the point now? I just can't listen to music anymore. Like, so what? But my parents had like this horrible CD player that had makeup on it that I had to hold together if I need to listen to it. So driving in the car, like I'd be like, no, like I think I heard the riff to One Step Closer like 400 times, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. This is amazing.
And of course, Linkin Park then brought in Jay-Z, but like one of the most crucial albums of that time was a soundtrack called Judgment Night.
Oh, Richie, you are speaking my language, buddy.
You know?
What a movie, but what a soundtrack.
I don't think I ever saw the movie, but the soundtrack has been bought on cassette, twice on CD. It's just one of the greatest.
Evan, do you know that?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, so there was this
What?
pretty terrible movie called Judgment Night, and it was a bunch of, if I remember rightly, Richie, you say you've never seen it, but I think my memory serves me right. It was a bunch
Emilio
of lads
Estefan.
Emilio Estevez, yeah.
Would have been in it.
They ended up in town on some night, and basically everything goes wrong. So they get in a bar fight, and then it turns out they fought with the wrong dudes, and then they're trying to get out of the city while being pursued by the seriously bad dudes they shouldn't have gotten involved in or whatever. And then I think Dennis Leary might have been in it, and I think he basically fucks it up for everybody. But the soundtrack, though, like Richie's talking about, was things like, I mean, full on proper MCs, like from the world of hip hop, not like the guys in Linkin Park, not Jonathan Davis from Korn. It was like the lads from like
Cypress Hill, Booyah Tribe. They were all paired up with Mudhoney, Fate No More,
Helmet.
Oh wait, they did a mix.
Yeah, they did a mix. Yeah, Slayer was matched up with Ice-T.
Yeah, I'm literally going to pull up the soundtrack here because it's worth. So it's Helmet and House of Pain.
Oh, Helmet. House of Pain.
Club and De La Soul. Live in Color and Run DMC. Biohazard and Onyx did the title track.
That's the one, man.
Do you know what? Actually, do you know what? I think I do know that song.
Yeah, Judgment Night.
I know the Biohazard one.
Yeah. Slayer and Ice-T, Fate No More and Booyah Tribe, Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot, Dinosaur Jr. and Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Therapy. And Fatal.
Shit, I forgot about Therapy.
For an Irish band to hop on that now.
That's pretty cool.
And Cypress Hill and Pearl Jam.
How have I not heard, like...
Honestly, this is your musical homework now for the next week.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll send you a
but that was a game changer, massive game changer. Yeah. It just broke open both scenes, and I think then after that, hip hop drifted into metal for a while, drifted out, and then suddenly dance went into hip hop, and away it went.
No, it was a really formative time. I mean, I was a huge hip hop head.
Same.
I was actually a rapper as well. Would you believe?
You know what? There's a part of me that didn't even question that. I was like, "Don't you even?" Of course, he was. Like.
You didn't rap. Come on. How?
Oh yes, I did. Oh, I rapped. And do you know what? I was really proud of my raps, but what I couldn't do was
sandwiches.
What I couldn't do was rap not in a Black American's accent. Like, so you think about now, and you think about how everybody raps in their own accent, and it's like grime, like it's unbelievable. These lads are like literally bringing slang that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. You look at the Jamaican lads, look at
but even in Ireland, rap. there's a huge scene in Ireland now. We have Nilo, who used to be in Frustration, probably the best hardcore band to come out. Speculative Fiction coming from Cork. There's Hazy Haze coming from Limerick.
Man.
Kojak, Mathman. Like I saw them at it's Mathman with Mango. No, I don't know what's his name.
Mango.
But happened to just walk in on them on not walk in on them, they weren't like riding around. But I saw them at Knockin' Stockin'.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind. And I was sitting like, when you see something live, and I came home and I was like listening to it, and I was like, this just doesn't seem like anything I would have gone for, but just because I saw it live and I got the energy of it, it's so good. I think
Because
Kojak is leading everyone. Like,
at the time, like I was like, say there was bands like Scary Era.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
The
as in
EIRE,
EIRE.
Scary Era. The only way that they could channel their Irishness was through overt republicanism. Do you know what I mean? So that like was all in their lyrics and everything. Whereas like they were genuinely good MCs, and you know, maybe they just needed a different kind of topic to have a bit of cut through or something. But then when I was doing it, like, and I mean, look, I wasn't taking it particularly seriously, I suppose. But like, do you remember? Again, how old you are, Evan? Do you remember the TV show Too Fat with Ray Darcy and Zig and Zag?
I remember. I do remember that. All right, chat.
Okay, so on that was a DJ called DJ Lee, and he was like unbelievable scratcher, like amazing hip hop DJ. And I was working on the show in the second series where I met my wife. She's Velcro girl from that show. It's a long story, but basically he was DJing, and I was like, dude, like, do you want to like do something together? And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I was like, I'm an MC, and he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, like, seriously.
See, I'm imagining you with like your hair and you're flipping it back and forth.
Oh no, at this point, I had this kind of thing, just not as grey as it is now.
Yeah.
Were you in tracksuit?
Yeah, so I would have been in a tracksuit.
The rip-ups.
No, I don't think I would have been. I wouldn't have been that far into it. I would have been.
Okay.
I still would have been in. Yeah, I would have been in jeans and t-shirts.
There's nothing wrong with rip-ups.
No,
Rip-ups
that's
are
true. Oh no, I had the rip-ups. I had the Adidas rip-ups.
Yeah.
But anyway, I sent him a demo of a track I had done, and I obviously had production skills as well, so I produced it, and he just like was like, dude, I want to work you straight away. So we did a couple of tracks together, and I'm still to this day, like, I play them for people, and they're like, which New York, you know, cypher session MC is this? And I'm like, yeah,
I just feel like you're. Yeah, I feel like you're just
the middle class guy from Portmarnock who, like, you know, like what Dermot loves is I should never tell him this, but I told him on the show one day that one of the lyrics in one of the songs I wrote was, I'm wilding in my Benz, but I'm keeping the speed limit. Spot a shorty, pull over and mess with the for a minute, nothing in it, right? So I'm wilding in my Benz is the opening line, which of course is something that a rapper from the States would say. They're in their Mercedes
far from Benz as you were raised. No,
here's the thing. He picked up and he was like, hang on, what's the story with the Benz? And I was like, oh yeah, I was driving my mum's A-class Mercedes. So like to this day, every time any conversation comes up about rap and someone goes, Dave, you're a rapper, and he goes, yeah, he drove his mum's car. Like, that's literally all I get. And he's right. But that's it. But that's the kind of like that's.
And that's a sign of a best friend as well. He'll always put you down. Like.
Always. Which
every single
I
time.
into everything.
The majority of metalers, and I use it now in a loose form because no more than me and you know, we don't have the long hair or whatever. But I mean, all Evans gang coming through now, none of them have long hair.
I like that.
Yeah. They don't,
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? And
hang on there now. Hang on there now.
Okay, go on.
Not only did I have long hair, I had dreadlocks.
We're glad that you got rid of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I'm doing way better now. Like.
But it's funny, Richie. I think that the visual element of the uniform and the kind of the social identification as a metaler was very important in the 80s and 90s.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
You know, and it was divisive in some ways. And like, I remember, like, the gang I hung around with here in Portmarnock growing up would have been a mixture of completely normal, you know, no musical affiliations people. There would have been goths. There would have been metalers like me. There would have been rave kids. And we would all just hung out together. But I certainly remember having trouble with other gangs in Portmarnock. And trust me, Portmarnock and gangs. I'm not talking about gang violence.
I was just about to say, yeah.
You know,
it was really off the chain, Dave. I'd say it was absolutely ludicrous. You should have seen it.
Somebody might hit your tato out of your hand outside Dunn's and then run back to their mammy. You know, but
not my country spring, no.
but at the same time, there was an identification.
Absolutely,
with a group of people, and it was really important.
It was a tribe. You know, you were part of a tribe, and you would identify others through the long hair, through the t-shirts, and you know, having lived through that and now going to the gigs, luckily enough, I still have the hair. For example, I was at Testament Exodus and Dead Angel
Those
there
are,
in
yeah.
the National
So were you,
Stadium.
yeah.
How many ball people? We were outnumbered by ball people.
Yeah. There was one lad I walked past, I swear to God, he was like the most Dublin taxi driver fella I've ever seen. Bald, short, he was talking to me and he goes, I can't believe I went to the thing. I was walking past him on my way to somewhere. I turned around and I was looking at him going, what a legend. I was like, he pick you up in his cab. Oh, where are you going to? Oh, great to have you. Come on, we get there. Like, totally normal lad. And I was like, here he is moshing in the pit of Testament. Like, unbelievable.
You know yourself, like.
It's just gone that way now that basically the only way you can kind of identify with the scene now is by a t-shirt, or maybe I think battle jackets actually, you're going to laugh at this, but battle jackets are actually coming back into play. Do you know what battle jackets are, Evan?
Like,
you do know?
I know what they are.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not 5, I'm 7. Like, but my thing was, I feel like, and I think a lot of people relate to this. I feel like I caught this amazing like mixing time when Tony Hawk, like when like the first Tony Hawk came out, and the music in that. So many people, like I was skating with my baggy pants that like say my foot is here, but the pants came over like that.
Yeah, right up. Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
they were, even if it was really sunny, it would always be wet up to my shin.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was doing that all the time, but I would be skating with guys that were in full tracksuit, and the white cap, like the Schwab boys. Like we had that thing where it was like everyone was just into the same thing at the same time. Those guys would even listen, like their favorite band would be fucking Papa Roach, like, or they some of them now will still listen to that era.
Yeah.
But as it, like, then you start diverging as it goes on. I don't know what it's like now because I haven't been 15 years. Like, I don't know. Thanks, Tony Hawk.
But no, it's just the whole point being the lads now that are hammering out the big riffs and everything like that are short hair. They could just be the normal Joe Soap, go about their business. Whereas back in the 80s and 90s, completely different.
Yeah, you're talking about, even say Sebastian Bach, you're talking about, but like that whole thing of like, as a kid, the reason I wanted to grow my hair wasn't that I particularly cared about my hair. It was just that that's what all of my idols had, And
needing to not look the exact same. I think when I was younger, that's what I wanted to do.
So you wanted to do, right?
I just wanted to feel like I was not the same.
But the biggest game changer, our changer was Metallica releasing the Black Album, and they all fucking got rid of the locks then, probably 2 or 3 years.
Was it Load or was it the Black Album?
Was it Load where they
released the Black Album. They released the Black Album, which was completely different to what we
the Black Album. Sorry, of
course
it was.
To what we expected of them. And then everybody at that stage, millions were following them. And then they went, right, okay, this is a different way they're going. And then the fucking Load album, then did all the haircut, and everybody went, fuck, is it okay to look normal as a metaler? And a lot of people jumped on that, didn't they, Dave?
They did, and that's why then I think you got things like the new metal scene, because
were Metallica embracing that maybe?
Well, no, I think because it was probably even a bit earlier, wasn't it? Load was probably 95 and 97 for Reload, but I think what they had done was they had grown up, and they, like, you think about it, like they were 18, 19 when they formed in 81, 82, 83, whatever it was. So by the time they were rolling around into into the kind of the 90s and the mid 90s and beyond, they were well into their 20s, hitting 30, and they were getting married and they were having kids, and everything was changing for them. But they also realized, I think, the power they had, and that they could do whatever. Like, Black Album was so big that they could do whatever they want, which is kind of what they did for about 20 years, and it was all shit. But anyway,
it really was.
but no, I think, but what I suppose the bigger point here is that what they did was, by changing the image and changing the music and making it, like, maybe not constantly making it more accessible, but certainly making it have a broader appeal, meant that metal was able to, because metal has always been in subgenres, always, like,
I think of all types of music, there is I don't think there's another type of music that has as many subgenres. Like you're getting a
Agreed.
subgenre that will also have 12 subgenres on
Yeah.
it. Do you know what I mean?
Which is also terrifying as a metal fan, because I mean, even like being this is the flip side of the conversation, Evan, being the age that Richie and I are, it's so difficult to keep up with the metal that came probably from the late 2000s to now, and to understand and stuff that is like for example, the lads in Hero and Error, for example, right? So Robbie, like, is just one of the most incredible guitarists ever, and I listen to him playing.
Shout out the boys. Shout out
wearing
the
his Hero and
boys.
Error shirt.
That is
Robbie
ridiculous. How many
is-
times has
yeah.
that happened to us, Evan? With the t-shirt.
Oh, I don't know how many. That happens regularly. Like that does. Like the boys are
That's
absolute legends.
ridiculous.
Shout out the boys.
They are.
Shout out to Hero and
Yeah.
Error. Wearing your t-shirt in case you can't see it.
One of the best, not one of the best metal bands in Ireland ever, one of the best metal bands ever. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
think of the technicality of the playing in Hero and Error, that like Metallica was so technical for me as a guitarist when I was a kid
At that time, yeah.
at that time. And then Dark Angel came on. I remember Dark Angel released an album called Time Does Not Heal. And
Stop now.
on-
That is one of my
Right.
favorite albums of all time.
Oh, Richie, that is literally I
Gene
would say that's my
Hoglan, man.
top 5 albums of all time.
Absolutely agree with you.
But Evan, when they released that, and I bought it in the Sound Cellar from Tommy
Ty,
Dublin.
yeah.
On the cover of the vinyl was a sticker, and it said, "This album contains 256." I'm making up the number, something like that.
Yeah, it was
256
200 something.
individual
Whatever you say
riffs.
is gospel.
Yeah, 256 individual riffs, and like when you listen to the album, it is so progressive.
That's an
for the time.
extortionate amount of riffs now, David.
It is.
That's, for
And
someone from
what-
Portmarnock now, that's an
So many riffs,
extortionate
it should be
amount
illegal.
of riffs.
But what they were doing was they were pitching themselves as more complex than Justice for All. That was their key aim, was to say, we are doing things that are musically more complex.
We've ramped it, like.
That exactly. Then you think that, and then you think about everything that's. Well, when I listen to Hero and Error and listen to the guitar, I'm like,
Could you imagine if that came out then?
like you just can't.
It would have got wiped over. Like that's the thing. People.
Well,
have
that's
been, like,
at the time, yeah.
of course, but I mean, like the technicality is.
It's.
I mean, like
second
every
nature to you
single-
guys.
Not me, but
Your peers.
my peers. Yeah. My peers. But the lads.
But it is though, because I mean, like, because we like, think about how complex, from the Bell Tolls, the song we started talking about at the start, how complex it is. It's not, it's E E E G E E B A E E G.
Yeah.
It's not complex. But what these lads are doing, and what's come out of metal in the meantime, is like an unbelievable level of technical ability and complexity that was unimaginable to me and Richie back in the 90s. And Metallica obviously went the opposite. They made it simpler on the Black Album and then made it super sludgy on Load and Reload and whatever else. And they veered away from the technicality, whereas other people leaned into it. But that's where these genres come from. But I'm kind of envious of younger guys who grew up on Trivium and Avenged Sevenfold and these bands, so where the playing is so complex, but it's second nature, because that was there for Whom the Bell Tolls. It was like, I'm going to figure out a Trivium riff, and I'm looking at it going, this is insane, I can't do this. Whereas you guys go, well, that's what I learned when I was growing up, and like that.
That's the advent of Guitar Hero, the game.
Do you think so?
Absolutely, because I mean, when Guitar Hero came in, people were just like, what were the songs on
Playing
Guitar Hero?
guitar, like.
They were just like Trivium, all this stuff as well, and kids were embracing that, whereas we were just going, I just went, no, fucking hell, this is just ridiculous.
I can't play, like, you could give me a song that I can actually play perfectly. You give it to me on Guitar Hero,
can't do it.
I'm gonna fire it all over that thing.
It's because you're an actual musician, though.
But like, I just can't.
And that's
like,
true as
even
well,
like, And the thing is, I can sight read. Like, if I'm playing drums, I went to college, I can sight read. I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, cool, I know what I'm doing. But if you give it to me in colors and numbers, which is something that should be easier, no.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work for me. Like,
it's like every time I look at these 15 guitar riffs are underrated on YouTube, the first thing that comes up is the stupid musician is the greatest way to learn guitar.
Yeah.
Have you ever picked up a guitar and then put it back down? Well, here's it. Like, shut up. The only way to learn guitar is practicing for
But
hours.
that's it. Like
favorite songs, you idiot.
They pick up a guitar and just go like, not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
and then
but
it's like, but if you pick it up and there's some colors involved,
I think with that metal scene, what Dave was on about there, and then the advent of Trivium and all those, they brought it to the nth degree that they couldn't bring it any further. And when the likes of bands came out without lead guitarist and just concentrated on the riffs, which is very much the scene now again in the Irish metal scene. There ain't
well, I think in the
no
world, like,
lead
there is that. Isn't
all.
there that quote from Kirk Hammett where he's like,
Oh
man,
man.
I just don't know why we argue about saying that there's no solos, there is solos, or like it's like, and I actually totally get what he's saying. It's like, don't just say, okay, we're not doing a solo, but if you're like, oh, that a solo would work so good there, but we're not doing it because we said before we even wrote the song it's not happening. And I think that I do get that.
Like the biggest bands out in the Irish scene at the moment, 10 Ton Slug, Zahora, you know,
Doom is
Baylor,
a
all
huge,
those
dirty, smelly stuff. Like,
like none of them have guitar solos, or you know what I mean. It's not
I suppose
required at the moment. And you know what? As an old school heavy metal fan, I had to change, but I embraced the new. And
I think there's more technicality in the actual playing,
and the tone. The tone is
actual,
massive.
The actual riffs and how things are structured and everything is more. Now there's some guy now that's literally going to be sitting there the second I say this and just be like, just write my name down and be like, I'm going to kill this guy. But I think there's a lot more technicality in the songwriting and the ability to play the rhythm that there isn't really a need to have. I mean, do your solos all you want, but like a band, like we'll say End. Have you listened to, Dave, have I sent you End? I don't know if I have, but like,
I've definitely heard them though.
But like, oh my God. Or that band that I definitely sent you, Teeth.
Oh, Teeth,
yeah, Teeth, as in like, you can't imagine a solo in that because it's just 2.5 minutes of carnage, just riff, and it's supposed to be that kind of like jarring thing that there isn't that time to stick on a riff to do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's, but even the riffs that they're playing would take longer to learn than some of the solos that were done before.
Yeah, but Richie, do you remember Napalm Death? Like,
oh, and I can't believe I was going to be able to see them a couple of weeks ago. I love Napalm Death.
I've no interest in
Napalm Death.
No interest
Are you
whatsoever.
for real?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
Nearly begged to get the support slot for that.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about though in Napalm Death is, remember, I mean, this was a band that was around in late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
It was Birmingham, like, you know, it wasn't LA, it wasn't New York, it was Birmingham, and they were playing music that not only had no guitar solos, barely had recognizable song structures, and certainly didn't have like things that would be any longer than, I mean, they hilariously had a song. They said, this song
1 second,
guys at the BBC, and it was 1 second long, and they just played and it was over.
Scum, was it, or something?
Scum,
like that,
that was what it was called. Yeah,
no interest.
And it was pretty much two different bands on the album that was released for that as well. Like
that's right, yeah,
on both sides.
Yeah, but I suppose, but the point is, like, there's lads who, at the height of guitar solos, were doing music that was different. They were doing music that was, and as you said, Richie, it wasn't for you. Look, to be honest with you, it wasn't really for me either. But they were, at least, you know, it wasn't as though that's only happened now. It's just there's a cyclical nature to music and to metal, and there's stuff that will come back and stuff that will go and stuff like, and there's no question that, you know, in a number of years, someone somewhere will make a metal song with an epic guitar solo that everyone will go, this is the best thing ever, and then guitar solos will come back.
It's true, yeah,
you know?
yeah, you're spot on.
But that early 2000 production is kind of coming back. It's coming back into hardcore.
Yeah,
like, there's a lot of bands now that are doing that early, like the kind of 2000, like the Iowa level from Slipknot production. Like over in the UK anywhere, there's Graphic Nature. There's one band straight away that I can think of that are just nailing into that. I think it's a lot in the UK at the moment, but it is like same with Employed to Serve. I don't know if it'll come up exactly here, but I think it is growing that, and it's like, I think because new metal as well can be very touch and go. Like you say that to someone and they kind of go,
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
with this, it's that finding that nice little middle ground of where people are like, there's nostalgia, but it's not like cringy. Like it's not just.
But look, you brought up Slipknot. There's a band that has unbelievable guitar solos. Like Jim Root plays guitar solos that I absolutely adore. But they don't feature in every track. Mick Thompson does it, but they don't feature in, like, they're on their albums, and there are times when the guitar solo is the most important part of the song, but it's not every time. And it's not like you go back and listen to the Metallica's first 3 records or every Slayer record. You know, it's like song structures were always the same. It was like intro, verse, chorus, guitar solo, chorus, outro, guitar solo.
C.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what it was. Whereas nowadays there are still big bands who are still, you know, I mean, Slipknot have been around a long time, but there are still guitar solos there. They're just, you've got to dig them out. But I think, Richie, you made a really good point as well about tone. Like, the technicality has been able to flourish because the guitar tones have become so unbelievably clear and heavy, but not sludgy. I mean, look, you asked me earlier on, why did I want to be a pop producer? One of the reasons why I wanted to be a pop producer, not a metal producer, was metal is hard to produce. Like, it's particularly when I was doing it in the late 90s and early 2000s, like, to get good guitar tone in a studio was either have it in Marshall and a proper ribbon mic, or it was using some kind of terrible plugin for Cakewalk.
Oh my God, Cakewalk!
Yeah, Cakewalk.
I forgot about that.
So like that was where I was operating. It was like, well, hang on, there's got to be, you know, I don't have a solution to this. So then it was like, well, I'm just going to do pop because that's clean and easy, and I got all my samples and my synths, and I can play the bass, and I can play the keys, I can program the drums, I can play the drums if I need to, or whatever. Like, and I mean, that's like, that was definitely a reason for me to veer out of the metal scene in terms of the production. Was there were guys with studios full of Marshalls, and people could come in and just plug their guitar in and it would sound unbelievable. But I wasn't operating at that level. I didn't have the budget to do it. And I also didn't have the interest. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, I can find a niche and still spend my time in a studio, which is what I loved more than anything, without having the headache of trying to make someone's, you know, guitar tone work. Whereas now it would be like, well, there's a free plugin, hit play, go, now your guitar sounds unbelievable, play the riff.
It's that even if they bring a bad amp, just reamp it.
Yeah,
like,
reamp
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many, like, I know Will Putney has so much things online. Same with Matt Halpern from Periphery. Like his the Get Good drums and everything. They're just like, it's phenomenal what you can do now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that whole thing of like some guy can actually just sit in his bedroom and release something that is, if you would have thought, even, I'm not even going to say this whole 20 years ago thing, because whatever, but like 8 years ago, 5 years ago, like what the difference of things that you can do now is just amazing. Like, even sorry, go on.
No, same. But like, even like, say, the other thing that maybe one of the drawbacks to these unbelievable computer tones is these things we're wearing on our ears right now, which is headphones. So you got to play them realistically through a headphone for them to sound as good as they can. But then you're missing all of the vibey kind of ambience and the feeling you get of an amp in a room, which is what we grew up on, Richie. But then, like, Boss just brought out these things called Wazas, which are
Waza.
They're a headset, so it's a pair of gorgeous headphones with a little receiver you plug into the jack of your guitar, and then it puts your amp in a 3-dimensional space.
No way.
And if you
can move around the mic. Yeah.
So,
go away.
For example, like, I got them for my birthday. Like, they're just unbelievable. And I mean, it's things like, say, for example, think about it. When you were rehearsing, you rehearse looking at your amp. It's just normal. Just stand there facing your amp, play your riff there. And then when you're playing a gig, your back's to the amp.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the sounds coming out this way, and you've got a wedge in front of you, whatever. Okay, nowadays you guys probably all have in-ears or whatever, but like that was certainly how we did it.
Depends
But,
on
like,
the venue. Like,
yeah, that's true. But you can do that now. I can stand and turn my back, literally just turn 180 degrees, and all of a sudden the amp is behind me.
That's
And
incredible.
I can choose it to be on the stage or in the studio, or I can choose it to be static and it just sits exactly wherever in my head. Nothing happens. It is unbelievable technology, and like this stuff is only going to become wider and more available. Like Robbie from Hero and Error was sending a message the other day about Guitar Tone, and he was saying he used a thing. I think it's called Amped, and it's free. It's a free plugin.
I think he's put up videos of a few things that
Yeah.
he's done before, right? But they're
like if he's getting that Guitar Tone, because he's sending me riffs, and I'm like, I'm going, this is just literally the most incredible sounding stuff. It's brilliant riffs anyway, but it sounds so incredible. And he's like, oh, it's just this free plugin. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
It's
what
insane.
would have done for that?
I interviewed Aidan Cunningham, and
I was
that's coming
just
out.
about to say, I guarantee you Aidan wanted. Aidan's a man who loves. At the end of the day, sorry to cut you.
No, it's good.
But I already know the second you started saying this, first person that came to mind was Aidan, and I think Aidan is like, at the end of the day, you can't beat the real sound, no matter how much we can do. And something about, even like maybe it's just me coming from recording it being like, that was done in a studio, that we're cranked it the fuck up, just listen to it. There's so much you can do, but there's something about the human in the room, an amp with the air
Absolutely.
that's there. Like, in saying this now, like, there's guys going to be listening to this being like, well, actually you're wrong. It's like, whatever, I don't care. There's something about, like, you can virtually move a mic around and it will, it'll sound the exact same. But there's just something for me that not having something programmed. But even like if you're playing drums, you're playing your snare, you'll crack it. There's a sampled snare that's going to go underneath that as well. It's not just your snare you're hearing. So there's always going to be samples. There's always going to be. We are moving forward in production wise and what we can do, as long as we don't just keep it to a virtual thing, because I feel like that would just take away from a feel. Like, it could sound amazing, but if what's the point in recording a drummer then? Like, we had this problem years ago with 808s. Like,
no, you mentioned Aidan. I sent you guys my little 40
Was he involved in that
project. Aidan produced it. Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. Tell everybody.
It was a birthday present for Tracy, wasn't it?
Yeah. So she basically didn't know what to buy me because I own too many guitars and too many pairs of runners. So I was like, what the hell am I going to get this fella for his 40th? So she literally got me recording time, and she said, look, just go do what you want to do. I know you love being in the studio. Like, I don't know. She didn't know what I wanted to do. She's like, just go there. There's there's the money, and I'll mind the kids, and you just go whatever. So I went, oh my God, I just want to record.
Shout out to your wife, legend.
Legend.
Tracy's art's amazing as well.
Thanks,
yeah,
dude.
Actually, brilliant. I was obviously a researcher, and her art, man, fucking top class. I'll put a link in relation to the show as well. Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lovely rocker horse she has walking along a moonlit street, and he's got his skinny jeans and his skull t-shirt on. So
I was just about to say, I can imagine like the battle jacket or something.
Yeah. But
go on.
Yeah, so basically I said, like, okay, well, I just want to record a metal song just for the crack, but I want to record it properly. Like, I don't want to do it myself. I want to go to a studio. And I was like, okay, well, who do I want to work with? I was like, well, obviously my favorite band is Murdoch, but like, I'm not going to work with Murdoch. Like, that's ridiculous. And then I went, well, I do know Aidan, like, from social media. I just message him and see. And I was like, hey, man. And he's like, hey, dude. And I was like, listen, you still producing stuff? He's like, yeah. It's like, are you really expensive and really busy? And he's like, I am both of these things. What do you want? So I said, look, here's the story. I have some time. I want to record something. I would absolutely love to do it with you. I don't know if it's possible. He's like, of course it's possible. We'll pick a date. We'll pick something that works. He goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'd love to do everything myself, but I'm the world's worst drummer. So Like, I want this to sound good, so I will play the bass, I will play the guitar, I will sing the songs, but I really need a drummer. And he's going, well, we just get Ronan Nolan. I was like, what, Ronan from Murdoch? He's like,
What a drummer!
What?
I'm like,
Fuck off. Really?
so hang on, I'm now going to have the drummer of my favorite Irish metal band and the producer, writer, guitarist of my favorite metal band making my music.
Living
So
the
he's like,
dream.
yeah. Oh, living the dreams, right?
Fucking
So
hell.
basically, we just went back and forth, and we said, I said, look, here's the story. Like, I want to write something new today, you know. And I'll be honest with you, I listen a lot heavier than I write. So I went to write, you know,
Do the exact same thing.
like
Yeah.
I went to write Slipknot, or I went to write, you know, Hero in Error or whatever. And I didn't, I couldn't. Not if I really wanted it and set my mind to it, I probably could have. But I just said, no, I'll just write what comes. And what came was, I suppose, you guys have heard it. It's kind of Alice in Chainsy.
Can I throw in?
Prendergast, I think.
Please try and describe it for me, because I don't want to do it. But like, what did you
think it
hear?
was?
I was hearing a lot of Nickelback.
Nah.
I'm
So it's been nice talking to you, lads. I'm out of here.
See you
I'm
later,
telling,
lads.
I'm telling you, if Chad Cougar decided to pack it up in the morning, you're in there, Dave.
No, I think
I'd have to grow the bob back.
I remember the first time you sent it to me. The
Really?
first thing I thought was
I'm
like,
only messing. I'm only messing.
I'm
it
only
sounds,
messing
it
with you,
sounds
Ricky.
so much like it's an Alice in Chains curb dog thing. And in my head, I was like, because I know Cormac Battle was with 2FM.
2FM, yeah.
All
I
right,
was
yeah,
like,
that's fact.
Is it just like a radio voice that has that vocal sound that I had listened to for so fucking long
Yeah.
growing up? Like, but I love it. Like, I love it. I think it's
Thanks, man.
so
Yeah,
good.
well, look, here's the thing. We're talking about recording. Like, I mean, to get to go into studio with Ronan Nolan, like, you know, I sent 3 tracks over to the lads. We only had 2 days, like literally 2 days, because again, I'm busy, they're busy, whatever. Ronan had 3 or 4 hours, like that's all he had. So it was like, what can we jam in? We said, well, okay, look, you've sent us 3 demos. We think we should do this one called 7 Towns. That's the one we should do. I was like, yeah, fine. Sorry, 7 Crowns used to be called
7 Crowns. I was about to say 7 Towns.
I don't even know the name of my own song. But yeah, so we should do that. And then they said, well, look, and if we have time, there's another one, we should do the leader. And I was like, well, we're not going to have time. Like, you know, I want to do 7 Crowns justice. So look, we'll think about it. So we had a Saturday and a Sunday. We spent the first kind of 3 hours of a Saturday just setting up the drums, just getting the drum set up right, getting Ronan happy, getting Aidan happy. And then I was like, oh, Jesus, time's running out here. You know, like, there's kind of definitely only going to get the one done. And then we went for a take, and Ronan Nolan destroyed everything on the first take. And I was like, sitting in the control room, just going, like, what the fuck is happening? Like, so I've got my guy track playing, and he is just absolutely
nailing it, like,
nailing it on the first take all the way through. And I'm like, Aidan just goes, we'll just do another one for luck. And I was like, he's going to do it in 2 takes. And the second was just for the crack, like, just to have an alternative.
Just to have another one. You can double them up if you want. Like,
that's it. And then he did, then he did the second one. He did the leader as well, just again, so we'd have it to build on.
That's actually my favorite.
Is it? Thanks.
Yeah.
But then that's it. We just basically went and built the 2 tracks over the course of the remaining kind of 4 hours on the Saturday, and then the kind of 8 hours on the Sunday. And you know what? Like, there's a couple of things that have happened in my life where if Aidan rang me, you know, the next day and went, dude, I spilt water on my MacBook and the tracks are gone. Like, if that had happened, I would have been disappointed. But it wasn't the point. Like, the music is great to have in, you know, for posterity. But the 2 days in studio with Aidan, with Ronan, that's what my wife bought me. Like,
yeah, totally.
That's the gift. That was for me was the most incredible experience. It was like these 2 lads from one of my favorite bands, I said, like a band I admired, but also humans that I admired. Like I remember meeting Aidan about a year ago, about a year ago. I just literally walked down the street in South William Street, and I turned around and I saw him, and I couldn't stop myself. Out of my mouth just came like, "Oh, it's the nicest human in the world." And I literally meant it. Like it just came out of my mouth. I was like, because that's exactly how I felt when I saw him. I was like, he's literally the nicest person that exists. It's this man here.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was those 2 days in that studio, and look, the tracks came out so much better than I could have ever imagined. And Aidan spent far too long mixing them for the money I paid him and all that kind of stuff. And but it was like, it was just so brilliant to do that.
And nobody can take that away from you, man. You have it now, and that's it.
There's 6 tracks. Like
before we wrap it up, how did you two meet?
Probably
goddamn social media.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was. I don't know actually.
I think what happened was Worn Out. You guys released a video.
Was it when we released With False Hope?
Yeah. Yes, you released With False Hope. The video came out, and then I don't know how no one sent it to me, but I just came across it somewhere, and I was like, what's this? And then through following back the trail, I found Baylor had said something about Worn Out, or maybe you were supporting them, or it was a whatever it was some kind of connection. I was like, oh, hang on, these lads are Irish. And then I was like, okay, so that's why I started digging.
That's actually a great point. None of the fucking Irish bands, the likes of Baylor, Worn Out as well, are they Irish? Who fucking knows? Do you know, it's a great point.
People, it's great that they are.
People forget that, and it's not obvious, which is great. You know, yeah.
But not to say that a band from Ireland having an Irish sound is bad, but I think we mean
it's on a par with anything else. I think is what I felt about it.
Yeah.
And then I think Evan, I'm not 100% sure how. I think what happened was I just got really excited about Worn Out, started sharing it, and you were like sliding in my DMs, going, "Hey, thanks, man." I was going, "Hey, cool, no problem." And then I remember we were doing a radio show in our Cork studio.
The first one you did with Republic of Work, wasn't it?
Republic of Work. And I was walking out of Republic of Work, and I don't think we hadn't arranged to see each other.
No, we had not. No, it was you and Dermot at the time, and I think I was walking Sarah.
That's how I knew. I was like, I literally went, "There's a little dog," because I love animals, and I was like, "Oh, look at the cute little dog." I went, "Oh my god!" And I literally, before I looked at you, I went, "I think that's Sarah." That's literally what I said. And I looked up and I went, "Oh, it is. There's Sarah's owner, whatever that guy's name is."
Are you serious? Is that how it happened?
100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in the street. It was just.
Yeah.
It was outside the post office, like.
That's right, outside the post office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was a brief encounter. Unfortunately, I had to run or whatever. But then I made sure the next time I was down that Evan and I got a chance to just sit down and catch up and have a lunch, and it was lovely. And we'll definitely be doing it as often as possible.
I think it's great as well to, especially in times like this now, like how the internet actually can, like the fact that we're doing this now. Do you know what I mean? Like this could have put the Metal Cell completely on hold and everything's gone, but people enjoy stuff like this. I hope they do anyway. Like, it wouldn't be getting as much, but like the same way as me and you became like actual friends. Like it's not just like it started off being like, "Oh, thanks a million," to being able to just have a chat. Whatever you want to have a chat about, being able to, like, when you're down, if he'll let me know if he's coming down to Cork, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see Dave. Like, we'll go have a coffee, we'll sit there. It doesn't even have to be about music. Like, I think the last time we were down, we just talked about life. Like, just talk about kind of how we view everything, how we deal with everything. Absolutely. How we deal with different things. And I've said it so many times on this podcast, but I think I get to a stage where it's like try not to be like to try bring it down to like a motherly level. If you've not nice to say, don't fucking say anything, man.
Couldn't agree more. Like there's plenty of negativity in the world. Why not just push out some positivity? No, there's no need.
Don't be that guy. Just be the guy that likes a post or leaves a little love heart, or just says, yeah, fair play. If someone releases a song, like, just help them. If someone fucking, I don't know, cuts their hair and you're like, oh, fucking, you look great anyway. If someone compliments you, compliment them back.
It's great as well. Sorry to interrupt the love fest.
I love you, Dave.
Come on, say it. I love you, Joe. But It's
I know,
great
I
as
know.
well that someone in national media like yourself, Dave, and that's the reason why I wanted you on the show anyway. First of all, shows so much support and is so positive about the Irish metal scene and knows his shit as well. And fair
I
play to you
appreciate
for
that,
that.
Richie. Yeah, I'm a huge fan because I know what goes in. I've been there. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am a guy on the radio now, but like I grew up gigging, like it's rehearsing twice a week and gigging every weekend in shitty bars. As I said, with a terrible guitar sound out of a Crate G60 and an MT2 metal distortion pedal from Boss. It was appalling, but I'm sorry to all the people I put it through. But like, that was me. I've been there, and I think if we can foster positivity and exposure and
Mm-hmm.
highlight the good stuff that's happening, that's part of what we need to do in the media. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't need a metal show to do that. Now, I'm not going to be able to play Worn Out. I'm not going to be able to
You
play
did once,
Vader.
though. Do you remember
No,
that?
okay, I could play a clip. Yeah,
You did.
and I definitely did play a clip of Worn Out. But I suppose, look, I had a metal show on TXFM, and for like 18 weeks, every Saturday night, I played 2 hours of metal, and I always made sure there was at least an Irish track an hour on that radio show. Not because of some kind of pandering, like, I hope the boys hear this and they think I'm great. It was like, because the shit is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
we should be proud of what we do. And we're proud of you too. And we're proud of Hosier. And we're proud of Picture This. And we're proud of Sinead O'Connor. But we should be equally proud of, Worn Out and Baylor and Hero and Error and Murdoch and Zahora and everybody else who's 10-ton slugger doing unbelievable shit. Like, we should be singing as much as we can about those things. I can't do much on a top 40 radio station.
Yeah, of course. We're all aware of that. Yeah.
But when I can,
To be fair,
I
now,
will.
Dave, you've name dropped a lot of Irish bands on that show. When I was working in English market, I'd just be sitting there working away, and we always had the radio. You have mentioned so many metal bands, and you found a way to like segue it in, just being like, and I know Dermot listens to heavier music as well. Like, I know he's a big
he loves Carnival, he loves Tool,
Carnival,
Perfect
that's
Circle.
he loves them. Like, so but even just like, cause it's not like anyone's going to expect you to be like, oh, why isn't he playing Zora, or why isn't he playing Grey Stag, or doing any of this? It's like, at the end of the day, like, the amount that you're doing is second to none on any other thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's like, you don't see anyone on like Lyric FM being like, oh, that last song actually reminded me of a band I saw the last week called Baylor.
Now that I would pay money. I would pay money to hear somebody on Lyric introduce Baylor.
I think we all would.
Yeah. After Ein Klein Knock Music.
But look, I think ultimately what it boils down to is like, my job on radio is to be me, right? And if I didn't mention metal, if I didn't talk about going to see Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel, or for example, when Slayer announced the gig in the 3 Arena, like, behind my back, my team, my Dermot and the other guys went out and got me like those front row balcony tickets sorted before they ever went on sale. And like, I screamed Slayer at the top of my voice on national radio because
you did,
like, But if I didn't do that, then I'm not being myself. I'd pee sitting down. We'll talk about that on the radio, and like, everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're admitting you PC down. I'm like, I don't care. Like, this.
You don't wash your legs.
I don't wash my legs.
You don't wash your legs.
Like,
I don't wash my legs.
Who washes their legs? My
legs
are
who washes
fine.
their legs?
Like,
who washes their legs?
Like, literally. But like, I think that's part of the metal thing. Is it's part of my personality. It's part of who I am. And if I
it's part of who you are. Exactly.
And like, that is why it makes sense for me to scream Slayer, to talk about Worn Out, to talk about Murdoch, and like, none of it is forced in the same way that I talk about Manchester United. Like, it makes up who I am. I had to get a dig in at Richie there.
It did, of course it did.
My dad is going to love this as well. Like, he's going to love this. Noel Prendergast always got you, my man. Got you.
So look, I'm gonna love ye and leave ye. I must say, one of the most enjoyable podcasts I did. Evan, you know how much I love you, man.
I love you
And
too, buddy.
always fantastic on the show. Check out the forums, the Metal Cell forums with Evan, Jack, and Danielle. Brilliant. And Dave, what can I say? Thanks a million for coming on the show and showing your badge of metal. Much appreciated.
Listen, I appreciate being asked, and I would love to come back some other time if you will have me, because this has been one of the most enjoyable chats I've had in a long time, lads.
Cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you've been
Gents.
listening to Richie, Evan, and Dave on the Metal Self podcast, yeah? And I was going to say forums. He could be a forums member. Would he?
We could do this.
We
yeah,
could
yeah.
do
We don't
this.
offer as much money as Today FM do, but like we're way better crack.
So check out the Metal Cell on all the usual social media sites. And again, thanks to Dave and Evan. Much appreciated. Well, that was one of the most enjoyable podcasts I did in a long, long time. So I'm going to finish with this one last track, and it's a band called Diamir, and they're from Northern Ireland. They were formed in 2018, and it's basically a culmination of a decade's work of sporadic behind-the-scenes writing, composing from guitarist and keyboardist John Wilson. They are known for delivering powerful live performances, which helped propel them to win the Northern Ireland Hop House Battle of the Bands in summer 2019. The band have completed the recording of a second single and have a wealth of material composed and arranged by John, and they're hoping to get as much of this out into the world in 2020. So the band consists of Peter on lead and backing vocals, John on guitars and keyboards, backing vocals, Ashley on bass guitar, and Dave on drums and percussion. The song you are about to hear is called Behind the Facade, and it's their debut single. And it's about a glimpse into a mind that has gone over the edge and is not coming back. Having listened to the song, you can hear a lot of influences. I'm hearing Deep Purple definitely, and a bit of Queen thrown in for good measure, but you can make up your own mind about that. The track itself was produced by John Wilson and recorded in Inca Road Studios in Lisburn, engineered by Ashley Irwin and mixed by Ashley Irwin and Diamir. I think Ashley is in So Much for the Sun, as far as I can remember. I could be wrong. So check out the video as well. The video was done by Harry Bateman of Toast City Productions. It's a really cool video, and I really hope you enjoy it.
Jack of the hide, you stand to see the bunch of smiling away. You will
So that's it from me. You've been listening to the Metal Cell podcast. If it's your first time on the show, thank you, and subscribe to my channels. They are the Metal Cell Studio on YouTube and www.themetalcell.com. Once again, thank you to the bands that submitted tracks for the show and my two guests, Dave and Evan. So stay safe out there, stay positive, and crucially, listen to metal and support your local metal scene.